these steps are usually pretty confusing to people who aren't familiar with Kerberos, how it takes place. And we don't necessarily, know that it's going on because we log in and we access the necessary resources. But Kerberos is, quite popular. It's the default authentication protocol for Windows. It's been used in Unix for a long time, so it's been around. But a lot of people don't understand necessarily the steps. Now, for the exam, you'll need to know KDC, TGS, TGT, principals, Realm. You can get a question on what the authenticator is. What is that for? And in the authenticator, like I said, there's like a sequence number and a timestamp to ensure that there's no replay attacks. That means that somebody can't grab that ticket and submit it and act as though they're me and authenticate to that other principal as myself. The Kerberos is an open protocol, which means that different vendors can take the protocol and manipulate it as they wish. So they can get the code and they can manipulate it to work within their servers, their environment. So that's why we actually have different flavors of Kerberos, and not all versions of Kerberos are interoperable because the vendors modify them for their specific products. So we've covered the authenticators that's used for authentication, and we need to know why we're even using Kerberos, because a lot of people in my classes, when I go through all of these steps, they seem very complex, and I get a lot of questions of why do all of this? And in reality, this is how a lot of protocols are working in the background. Again, this is single sign-on technology. Remember that I had signed on one time. I put my username and password in once, and I didn't have to authenticate again. There was tickets being granted to me, to my system, that allowed me to communicate with other principals. So that's why we're talking about it. It's a single sign-on technology, and those tickets have a lifetime. Like when I authenticate to the authentication service, the ticket that comes back to me has a lifetime that the network administrator sets, which is usually about 8 to 10 hours, because that's how long somebody's going to be at work. So those tickets have lifetimes. The second ticket is only used during that session. So if I need to print something else, let's say 10 minutes later, I have to go through all those steps again. Get a ticket from the TGS, do the whole session key, authenticator dance. So those are created for each session that principals need to communicate. So that again, when I go through this, a lot of people think it's nuts, why go through all of this just to be able to print something. But there's just as much confusion or just as much complexity to any other type of authentication protocol. We just usually don't know what's happening in the background. We usually could just log on and do our work and not really understand the complexity that's going on under the covers.